The monarch of the United Kingdom, the world over, is seen as one of the world's most enduring monarchs, and Queen Elizabeth II is seen as one of the most recognizable personalities in the world history. Queen Elizabeth II served from 1952 to 2022. Numerous territories and colonies were under her watch, particularly as the head of the Commonwealth, including Nigeria. One of the monumental reminiscences of the Queen's era to Nigerians was Nigeria's independence in 1960. At that time, the British Empire ran the state of affairs of Nigeria's protectorates, which the late Queen headed. She was an iconic monarch whose era witnessed the liberation of many countries from the rule of British colonization to independence. It can be recalled that during her reign, the Queen was credited over her interest in Nigerian government and political affairs, apart from her ceremonial duties. The Nigerian government was officially known as Her Majesty's Government. However, at that time, Nigerians and all political parties advocated for a change and agreed that the country should be a republic. The late Queen ceased to be the Queen of Nigeria on October 1st, 1963, when the Federation of Nigeria became the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This brings me to the question, how has the Queen sustained all the gains of the British colony and impacted on people's lives, particularly in Nigeria? Well, on Nigeria Today, we will be focusing on the reminiscences of Queen Elizabeth II. I am Lydia Udidiochi. Welcome to the program. With me to discuss this topic is an international affairs analyst, May Nasara Kogo Umar, in our studios. I like to call him the walking encyclopedia. Welcome to the program.
It's my honor to meet you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Also here in the studio is Adamawa State's former Commissioner of Information. That is former governorship candidate of the SDP, Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Bello. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
But not Commissioner of Information.
Commissioner of Information.
No,
not Commissioner of Information. All right. Thank you for that correction. Okay, let me start with you. As prescribed by Nigeria's Independence Act 1960, how does the British monarch under Queen Elizabeth II perceive the Nigerian government?
Well, first of all, I would like to send my condolence to the British people and especially the royal family, and to also recognize the fact and the contributions of the Queen, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. She was a great woman. She was a very strong woman, for that matter, and she was indeed well celebrated around the world. And one of the reasons why she was well celebrated was that during her reign, almost 93% of the colonies that were formerly of the British Empire got their independence. It was during her time that the slave trade was stopped, was completely eradicated. So she played a very Christian role in ensuring that slave trade was stopped. So this is a very great woman. I also have the singular opportunity of meeting her in 1993, and I think that's the reason why you invited me to the program.
Yes.
She invited me to the opening of Parliament, the British Parliament, at the spring, in November, and I had the singular opportunity to have a very short breakfast meeting with her.
Okay.
And at that time, what was on her mind was the hanging or the death sentence on King Sarawiwa, and that was the subject of discussion. So I had the very honored and singular privilege of meeting the Queen face to face. And I shook her hands, and we had a discussion.
Lucky you.
Yes. So, so when I had the news, I was really, really brought down yesterday. I was quite sad about, for each time I meet, I see her, I know that this is a mother, is a strong woman. She's something else. She's out of this world.
Oh, well.
And may her soul rest in
Mr.
peace.
Yes, definitely. Now, let me come to you. The monarch only took advice solely from Nigerian ministers at that time. That's what we're told. Now, what brought about the change, and was it after Nigeria became a republic, and why?
No, you know, Her Majesty the Queen, or rather the royalty of the United Kingdom, entrenched interest in Nigeria right from 1903. All the administrative heads the lords sent to Nigeria, you discover that they are among the best in the world. So carefully she be the one to decide who should go to Nigeria. As she popularly says that this is my personal colony, this is my personal country, Nigeria. And from 1914, she gave instruction specifically to Sir Frederick Lugard that all efforts should be geared towards entrenching independence for this my colony. And in doing that, you have to technically determine who should be the patrons that will hand over the nation to. And that was the reason behind the London Constitutional Conferences. About 6 different times there were constitutional conferences. You know, she midwife the success of constitutional handover to Nigeria's government. As a matter of fact, she carefully selected those statesmen, and upon her advice, they were put forward, talking about right from Herbert Macaulay time down to Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Tafawa Balewa, Enahoro, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Wafemi Awolowo, and the rest of them. So these people got the inspiration of unity of purpose from her. Her sermon always is be united, be united. And that was where they got, which up to now in section 15, subsection 1 of the Constitution, we have it as the motto of Nigeria: unity and faith, peace and progress. And then, as much as possible, she always talked to them about the need for retention of our cultural and historical heritages. One of the reasons behind the success of the monarchical system in Britain is the respect to history, the respect to culture and tradition. And that is why we have it entrenched under section 21 of the current constitution. And then these people, even after the October 1st, 1960, they kept getting diplomatic support and general advice. She left her doors open. Remembering the fact that in 1947, she made a pledge. She made a pledge that she will dedicate her life to the liberation of all the colonial regimes and to the entrenchment of world peace and the general entrenchment of the progression of human beings. And she kept it to she kept to that. And by the time she now demised, she has succeeded in becoming, you know, the most celebrated leader, the longest serving monarch in UK history, and close to 1/3 of the world is under her dominance. If you take, for example, the cognizance of the fact that 15 countries, she is their heads of states. You're having ceremonial prime ministers talking about Canada, New Zealand, and so many other countries. Okay. And then apart from that, too, about 54 countries that are under the Commonwealth of Nations, you know, are paying allegiance to her. And Britain, under Queen Elizabeth II, happens to be the country that has widest intricate diplomatic networks more than any other countries in the world. She has that one, and she has that aura of respect and charms of charisma, so much so that anywhere she goes, The respect is indelible. Take United States of America. Up to tomorrow, United States respects Britain because United States was one of its colonies.
Okay.
It was once being colonized by the Britain,
Okay.
and then they don't jump any advice from Her Majesty the Queen. And then even the contemporary problems, problems of racial, problems of ethnic, religious, terrorism, and other things. The excellence of the style of her leadership is the reason behind UK having the list of any incidents you can think of regarding leadership.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, Honorable Bello, I would like you to tell us, now, Nigeria being a Commonwealth member, what did Nigeria benefit from the bloc during her reign?
First and foremost, let's go back to the Civil War. During the Civil War, the Queen played a very important role in bringing about the end to the Civil War in Nigeria. From the perspective of my understanding, she had a very disturbing time at the time Nigeria went on that Civil War. And she played very diplomatic. The British foreign policy at that time was to help resolve the Nigerian Civil War problem other than taking side. And that was very good diplomatic move. And at each stage, Nigeria entered a cogmare. Her Majesty was always available. For example, when we got suspended at the Commonwealth, after South Africa moved for our suspension, I never forgive them for that. She also, it was during the Abacha regime, exactly 1993, and she was quite disturbed. It's one of the things that there was a mentorship program done by I was one of those who were being mentored by her, and that was why they invited me for that opening of Parliament at the spring. But what I understood was going on was that they wanted Nigeria back, because during the opening, I was right there in the Parliament, and Nigerian seat was empty. And for the first time, since we got independence, Nigerian seat was not occupied because our ambassador was withdrawn. And their ambassador was withdrawn, if you remember. So she discussed briefly, and within 3 months, I think we resolved the problem. And so the Queen has played very important roles in Nigerian problems, be it economic, political, and so on. And Britain has always had their foreign policy has always had a soft point for Nigeria. We interrelate very well with the British government, and our government and British government are very, very friendly. And the cooperation between us and the Britain, most Nigerians feel that London is home to them. And so the British also that I have interacted with, they have a very soft point for Nigeria. And this is because of the love the Queen has for us. Mind you, the Queen was born in 1922. So she did not set up the policy that saw Nigeria to where we are, or most of the colonies, but she inherited it from her late father, who was also a very astute diplomat as a king. And so the Queen picked it from there and then moved forward. So the policies that were adopted as discussed by Dr. before 1922, he was caught in 1914. She was born actually in 1922.
Okay,
yes.
Right. Okay, let's pause here for a break and get some reactions from Nigerians on late Queen Elizabeth II. We'll be back shortly to continue with our conversation.
A good-spirited human being should feel it, because her soul has been a blessing to the mankind. She has lived a life that have bring about peace and unity around the world. She has bring development to her country and even country beyond her countries.
She became the queen at a very tender age, which some of the youth are even asking for. Give them the responsibility when they were young and see how they can perform. And she has done tremendously well, looking at relationship with other countries, other continents of the world, and those countries that the Britons colonized. When you look at their relationship, she has done well.
Apparently, Queen Elizabeth II was an iconic woman that lasted on the throne for 70 years. And of course, in the memory of many Nigerians, especially 90% of Nigerians grew up to know that name. Especially the current generation of Nigerians grew up to meet and know that name, Queen Elizabeth. We'll miss her a great deal. And of course, the world will miss her, especially the Commonwealth of Nations.
Well, she's an icon. I felt very sad yesterday because I was following it all through, even when she was in the hospital till when they announced that she's dead. Well, Britain needs a new lease of life, the way I see now. Britain is no more Great Britain, the way I see. It's Britain, not great. So we need change everywhere. We just need young people that can make change in this country, especially here. In Britain, although the son is old, Prince Charles, but let's see what he'll bring to the table in Great Britain.
You can say she's the longest queen ever known in the world, and we get to miss her. She's a nice lady. Yeah, that's what I can say for the queen.
She's a legend, and it was so sad when I heard of the news. But thank God, she's a good woman. She's done a lot all around the world, and she's going to be missed.
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Today, and our focus is on the reminiscences of Queen Elizabeth II. My guests are still here, Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Bello, former governorship candidate, SDP 2019, and of course, Nasara Kogo Umar, international analyst on global affairs and rule of constitution. You listen to Nigerians there.
Oh,
How
yes.
would you react?
You know, I'm glad Nigerians have been following the antecedents of Her Majesty the Queen. And then especially several references about the Commonwealth of Nations. In addition to Commonwealth, she flagged off Olympic Games as a harbinger of bringing about peace and unity to the world 24 times. 54 times Commonwealth of Nations summits, she declared them open or is declared open by her representation. Or when you take the issue of 46 different periods under which there used to be Commonwealth Games, Koja, of which Nigeria is a beneficiary to it. And even at a time, His Excellency, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Emeka Anyaku, who happens to be from Nigeria, turned out to be the favorite of the decent. And even right, especially from the independence time, most of our foremost nationalists, because of the relationship with Her Majesty the Queen, got knighted. You discover that is the reason why they said Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sir this, got knighted because the spirit in the United Kingdom, you know, church gives leadership. You understand? Church is not serving like here in our churches and mosques, where it serves as temples of fortune seeking. Church is temple of human governance, human redirection, irrespective of the decision. And then she succeeded in allowing Christendom to guide her life. And that is the spirit behind the success of her decent temperament.
I know you also had a personal encounter with her.
Yes, I had an encounter with her. She's an epitome of my personal propulsion when you talk about the relationship with my late father, who was one of her pilots then. And then at the time I was given the world recognition as somebody who masters constitutions of over 100 countries. She was the one that handed over the gift to me, and I'm ever grateful. That is the highest attainment of recognition I have ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And I do not know what the future will bring, but I don't think in my lifetime I've received such type of higher edition. And then another thing you talk about, Queen Elizabeth, has to do with the fact that the European nations, the G5 or G7 or whatever G they call themselves, you will discover that whatever deliberations they want to discuss, without the input of the Queen, is inadequate. Is inadequate. Even the current upheavals, the crisis between the allied nations and Russia, the greatest hope I am personally thinking about will have been the intervention of Her Majesty the Queen, because her intervention will definitely go into lowering down the nerves, and then probably we'll see the emergence of peace and amicable resolution of the matter, just like she did, vigorously during the Cold War, seeing to the era of Cold War, the issue of ideological divides of the West and the East. So it's really tremendously a great loss. If you look at the network of the diplomatic relationships she has with the countries, talking about those countries that either she is directly the head of state, or those countries under the Afro string of the Commonwealth of Nations, where if you are not a member, you will not benefit from economic relationships going there, investments going there, political advice and counseling and guidance. Surely you will believe that she is a leader that has succeeded in ruling, over 1/3 of the total population of the world.
Okay, Honorable, let me ask you, what would be your take on the style of her leadership?
Well, the style of her leadership, Her Majesty, may the Queen live forever. She was a very smart woman. She stayed out of any kind of scandal, unlike other monarchies. The only scandal I can remember that happened, it was not a scandal as such, the drunkard that was found in her private area.
Okay.
And was arrested and so on, and led out of Buckingham Palace. But she wasn't even there at the time it happened.
Okay.
So she stayed out of scandal. She was well respected by world leaders and other monarchies. Other monarchies looked at her as the leading monarchy, and so as the leading monarch. And so she was able to conduct herself in such manners. And she also upheld the values of the Church of England. And so it means that she recognized God, and she lived with God until she died. So such a person had humility and had some kind of sensitivity about humanity. And if you look at Queen Elizabeth, Her Majesty, I respect her a lot because she was very matured in handling even her own personal family affairs. If you look at her and one of her grandchildren recently, if it was to be another monarch, it would have been some kind of disowning such a grandchild. But she was able to manage the affairs of this grandchild and the troubles that surround him without scandalizing him and without scandalizing the monarchy. So she was a very smart woman.
Oh, definitely. Very smart and will be remembered for a long time.
Yes.
Well, that's all we can take on this episode of Nigeria Today. My appreciation goes to Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Bello, former governorship candidate, SDP, in 2019, and a businessman. Thank you for coming on the program. And of course, thank you, Ms. Nasara Kogo Umar, international analyst on global politics and rule of constitution. Always a pleasure to have you.
May the soul of Her Majesty, the London Bridge, as she's popularly called, may her gentle soul rest in peace.
Yes. Amen. And to you, our viewer, we appreciate you for being a part of this discussion. You can also watch this episode and other episodes at www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am Lydia Odijochi. Thank you for watching. See you next week.